If you haven't seen this show, you need to stop what you're doing right now and go watch it. MGM's TV series From unravels the mystery of a town that traps anyone who enters it, and while that premise sounds kind of boring, it is a truly, truly phenomenal story to follow, because as night falls, these monsters disguised as normal people come out of the surrounding woods that are around the trapped town and brutally torture and kill anyone they find who remains outside. Ladies and gentlemen, I just finished watching From Season 1, and wow, that was an outstanding season of TV, and it really goes to show why you shouldn't always judge a book by its cover, or another way of saying, don't trust the pilot episode always and stick to that. I wasn't in love with the pilot. It wasn't the worst episode of TV ever or anything like that, but I was a little judgmental of it because I thought it just copied a lot of what's out there. Not saying that that's a bad thing or anything, but that's all I really took away from it. But man, as this season went on, it just got so unbelievable. And just like any good show that I've ever seen, it kept me up and it stuck with me and it couldn't leave my brain at all. So today I'm sharing those thoughts with you. Let's take a look at what makes season 1 of From so special. Let's first discuss the show at large. The show itself was produced by Jack Bender and Jeff Pinkner, who may sound familiar to you because they also produced Lost. So watching the show definitely felt familiar. And in reality, the show kind of feels like if Lost and The Walking Dead had a baby, and that baby just so happened to be obsessed with the green run maps from zombies in Call of Duty Black Ops 2. It has the mysteries and the ensemble cast of actual Lost characters, which make it feel very similar to Lost. And it has this apocalyptic vibe and violence of a show like The Walking Dead, especially with its existential threat of the monsters that come out at night. And the only reason I threw in the green run zombies maps from COD is because there is a diner set in this show that is literally a 1-for-1 of the diner in transit. It feels like you're just enthralled in Green Run when you're watching this show, because that's what the town feels like, and the town overall just has a similar vibe to maps in Green Run, like Town and Farm. I just had to throw that in somewhere. It doesn't add any weight to the story or anything, but the overall point I bring is, in my initial impressions review, I said that this show just kind of felt like a ripoff of The Walking Dead and anything boycotted, you know what I mean? But in reality, yes, those things are true. I feel like this show and the writers and producers were inspired by mass media that has been out since Lost, but they made a story that was truly unique and their own. So not that is a bad thing. It having influence from The Walking Dead, it having influence from Lost, it having influence from other mediums and trying to cater to that audience, that is not at all a bad thing, because the story really is unique. It is. Yes, okay, yeah, there are an existential threat like zombies, like The Walking Dead, and the font of the title sequence feels like The Walking Dead, the color grading, or the story with the mysteries feels like Lost, but that doesn't matter, because the idea in and of itself is really strong. And I want to leave it here really quickly to say, I know I'm in season 1, and I know there's a lot out there and a lot of people want to talk. Just like Dan's reviews, I'm going to try as hard as I can to get through this as quick as possible. So please do not spoil it for me in the comments, because I'm going to try to binge this very quickly so that I could avoid the spoilers, because I know as soon as I start talking about it on the channel, I start looking up things online, I'm going to get spoiled everything. I'm trying very hard to avoid that. So just saying, I really don't mind spoilers typically, but this is the type of show that I do not want to have spoiled for me, just because of the nature of what it is. And yes, I have heard that season 2 and 3 from some people aren't as strong. I've even seen you guys tell me that there's going to be videos on my channel of the wasted potential of X in From or whatever. Yeah, and that may happen, but this premise is just really strong, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm okay with slow storytelling, and I can sense that there's going to be elements to these next upcoming seasons that are slow. I've never been a big action guy. That's not the type of story I want. I want a story that is very down in the details. And this show is like that so far. As long as it sticks to a formula similar to that, we don't need to have the answers right away, though that being said, it does raise some concerns. We'll get into that later in the video. I guess what I want to do from here on out, and I have something up on screen, so I'm going to pull it over so I could view it a little bit better, is just run down the characters, because there is a lot. You know how The Walking Dead marketed itself after Rick Grimes left as being an ensemble show? That's bullshit. This is an ensemble show. So was Lost. And obviously that's where you get the inspiration from. But you have amazing characters in here. You have Boyd, Sarah, Father Katri, Father Katri, that's the name, Jim, Tabitha, Donna, who is, I love, Victor, Jade, Kenny. All these characters are truly amazing. Dan pointed out something great in his review, and I do think it's worth noting. Yes, I had to look over because I have some notes on the side here, but majority of these characters' names I knew. And that's indicative of a good show, because if a show sucks, I'm not going to remember your name at all. I remembered all of their names because they all are very unique. Other than Katri, I had to write that one down because I didn't know how to pronounce that one. Regardless, I just want to run through my thoughts on all of them because they all kind of add to this story. Boyd is a phenomenal character. And I kind of like that he's flawed. Like, they don't set him up. I know narratively they're trying to say he's the leader, he's the guy who lifts them up. I don't think they've really, to be fair, done a good job of showing that much this season. But what they have showed with him is really great. He's angry. He's not perfect. He has a poor relationship with his son for reasons that we discover in the season, which is phenomenal. And just overall, I like this kind of arc of his where he's not sure who he wants to be. He knows he has Parkinson's, or he thinks he has Parkinson's, so he knows eventually he's going to have to pass the torch. And he doesn't really have all of the makeups that your ideal story leader has. And I love that they show it. I love that they make that a big arc of his character. He really is great. He really is. He was likable from the moment he was introduced in the first episode and all the way up through episode 10, which is another thing, by the way, we'll talk about that later, but 10 episodes is like the sweet spot for a TV show. Whatever. Regardless, the next character is Sarah. Sarah was one, obviously, that we were meant to kind of dislike in the beginning, but she is a fascinating character. Obviously, I have mixed emotions because, again, you're kind of meant to hate her in the beginning based off of her, wanting to kill a child and things like that. But then over time, you realize, no, she's very normal. The problem is there is something inside of her, not like schizophrenia, but something inside of her from this town telling her what to do, and it comes out later, and it's just so good. It really is, and it makes me really like the character and excited to see where this shining power of hers takes the rest of the show, takes the rest of these seasons that I have yet to see. So Sarah's great. She really is. Father Katri died too soon. I'll leave it at that. He really did. He was actually probably my favorite character of season 1. And I have heard some things that he comes back in flashbacks later. That's pretty much the only spoiler I've seen out there. So I'm excited that he will apparently be back. I don't know that for a fact because I haven't seen the rest of the show yet. But I really, really liked him. Every episode he was in, he was great. He was flawed too. Obviously, he had a dark past, but I feel like they just scratched the surface with him, and then he got killed. And that sucks because, oh man, I really did like him. The dynamic duo of Boyd and Father Katri would have been so awesome to see pan out in the future. They're just two great characters, and I'm glad to see, at least I've been spoiled, apparently he comes around in some way, shape, or form. Jim and Tabitha, I'm going to kind of pair them together. Obviously, they are our surrogates for this story. They're the ones that we are meant to, follow because they're telling their encounters of getting to this town from their perspective. But Jim didn't really compel me as a character. I think all the other characters in the show, except for his family, are really great. But Jim, Tabitha, And I guess the kids didn't really like blow me away. I don't dislike them, but I also don't really think there was anything really standoutish about them. I didn't really love having them as our surrogates. I think that would be probably my only flaw with season 1 in that, and I know we're going to probably save this for a little bit later, but I'm going to preface it with this. I really don't like the way they told from that family's perspective of what this world is like. I like the flashbacks we got later with things like Boyd coming in. That was phenomenal. But Tabitha, Jim, and the family, I just didn't like it. They all felt a little dry. I have a feeling they're going to get better. I really do. I don't dislike them, like I said. I just wasn't in love with Jim, wasn't in love with Tabitha. And I got to say this here. Is Tabitha someone who has a legitimate accent that's trying to do an American accent? Or in the show, is she supposed to be someone with kind of like a rough English accent? I know that doesn't really change much, but I'm curious because I feel like Tabitha, her actress, goes back and forth between 100% American voice and then sometimes like a bit of like a Russianish Ukrainian voice, maybe like Bulgaria. I don't know. Like I hear some sort of accent pop in here and there. Was that intentional or was it not? I totally random. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Donna really matters to me. Donna is the best. I fucking love Donna. She doesn't feel like an actress in a show. She feels like a real person in a real story. And I know people like Donna in my real life. Like, I know people like her. So seeing someone who is portrayed just like people I know is really great. I think it makes the story feel more human and more like, okay, yeah, this is kind of a batshit crazy story, but you have people like Donna to ground it. And I really, really do like her. And speaking of her people in her community, Victor, really interesting character. Don't really know what else to say. Obviously, he's been there the longest, so there's a lot to explore there, and there's a lot of mystery there. I like that they kind of pan him righteously as this, like, bad or creepy dude because he's, like, you know, taking the boy into the forest and blah, 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 but his intentions are very clearly good, at least from what we've seen so far, and I'm interested to see where that goes. Obviously, they, as a community, know that I guess he's safe. You know what I mean? Because he's been there the longest, he's seen some shit. So I'm excited to see where they take him in the next, season and beyond. I just hope they continue to advance his character because he's really cool. And I want to see him be more prominent, get a little more confidence, things like that. Now, another one is Jade. In the beginning, when we were first introduced to Jade, obviously he annoyed me, but not for the reason that's obvious, that he was meant to be kind of hated in the beginning, but also because I feel like the acting was a little goofy. Like, it felt like a teenage sort of, it felt like Outer Banks writing, where he's like, aha, I'm gonna solve the mystery, you guys are all bullshit, like. And I do get it though, because that's kind of, everyone would have a different reaction to being trapped in a town like this, so obviously there's going to be someone along the way that comes there and is like, this is all a joke, you guys are idiots, like. But it just felt a little goofy. But I will say, I actually kind of like him, and I think he may evolve into one of my favorite characters of the show. I kind of hope he goes on like a Jaime Lannister style redemption arc. Not in the same way, obviously, but when I say that, I mean, I hope they kind of make him more lovable. You could see that come out when he's talking to Kenny's mom about death and what happens later. I thought that was really great, and I think it shows that there is true potential there. Speaking of Kenny, I really like him. I don't think there's too much to say. I feel like they haven't really explored his character. They showed him a lot, but they kept a lot of it surface level with the girl he likes, or him losing his dad, or him maybe taking over Boyd. But in season 1, it didn't feel like there was too much with his arc outside of him being in a lot of scenes. I liked him though. I don't have any issues with him, but I'm excited to see them potentially give him more screen time, show him more stuff, because I think he's another phenomenal character to be. Like, he could be really great. He could be a great companion to Boyd, kind of like how Father Khatri was, but we'll see where that goes. As you could see, I spent a long time talking about the characters, and that's because there's a lot to talk about with these characters. They're all so strong, and I didn't even mention a ton of them that we didn't even get to see, whether it's Jim and Tabitha's kids, whether it's Boyd's son, whose name is escaping me, and his I guess, fiance now, which happens towards the end of the season. That name is also escaping me. So there's a lot more characters there, and there's a lot to explore, and that's what I like about this show. And I even like how at the end of this season, we got a bus coming into town, transit. We got a bus coming into town of, I guess, more people. Really interested to see where that goes. As soon as I'm done recording this, my plan is to start season 2, but I didn't want to start season 2 until I got this video out. So, yeah. Those are my thoughts on the characters. They're all phenomenal. They really are. I love the vibe. I love the characters so far. And I think this season, while, yeah, there were some things I didn't love, it was truly an outstanding season of TV. I get the hype, and I thank you guys all for showing me this show. I really do appreciate it because, really, I never heard of it prior to you guys. So it really means a lot. Now, I kind of want to get into a couple concerns of mine that I have because, again, like I said, outstanding season, but there were some little cracks in there that I could see getting worse. I already said it's a good thing, and I'm a big fan of slow storytelling, but I am a little worried about the pacing, especially when by the ending they got absolutely nowhere. Not to say that ending wasn't great, because the ending was really, really interesting, how Boyd and Sarah saw the lighthouse, and then how Jim and Jade got on the radio, but the radio said they know that Tabitha's digging and they got to stop her from digging, or that when Tabitha was digging, she fell where Victor was and found where the monsters sleep. Like, all of that stuff is incredible. But I'm worried because they've had no semblance of anything that comes close to a resolution, which I guess you're not supposed to this early on, obviously. I'm just a little worried that they're going to drag it out. Again, I don't have a problem with slow storytelling. I just have a problem with the idea that it's going to get repetitive. Each season, and I could be dead wrong because I haven't seen it yet, but each season I'm worried will be like, okay, they have this overarching idea of how they're going to escape or at least contact the outside world, but then it just doesn't happen, so then they're back to square one, which I'm not against for a couple seasons because in theory, obviously, a group of survivors who have no idea how to get out of a place like this are going to do something like that. But I just worry that that is going to start to get repetitive and be something like how The Walking Dead just kept introducing villains and it would be rinse, wash, and repeat of the same sort of storytelling. I'm worried about that. I hope that's not the case. And I also hope with that they don't do something like The Walking Dead where they have just one-off episodes of bottle stories, just like they did in, I think it was like season 5 of The Walking Dead. I really hope that's not the case. But another thing with that, and at the ending of this, because we're talking about things I'm concerned with, how do you actually explain to anyone on the radio where you are? If Boyd already said in the beginning of the season that people came from everywhere, like some people came from like California, New Jersey, blah, blah, like all over the country, and they all ended up there from different areas, and like there was like a portal. How the hell do you explain that on the radio? Obviously, anything to survivors is some sign of hope. I get that. But like, if you actually got through to someone, what are you going to say? You're in a town with a diner? How are you going to explain where they go to save them? That makes no sense. I guess the only thing you can do, which I don't even know why they felt like they were going to go home from this, is explain, hey, tell our loved ones we're lost in a town. Like, what are you going to say? And that's what I'm worried about for the storytelling. And that's kind of where it comes back to pacing for me. I am a little concerned that these writers have this really good premise that they don't know the answer to themselves. And I'm pretty sure, isn't that what happened with Lost? Like, I'm genuinely worried that that's the case, because if you take some good writers, like, let's look at Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould. They made a phenomenal show in Better Call Saul, but they didn't know how it was going to end. They wrote for Jimmy. They wrote for Kim. They wrote for those characters and did it as the show progressed. Every episode, they would say, what would Jimmy do? What would Kim do? And that's how the story devolved into what we saw. I'm worried that that's the case here. And the reason I'm worried about that here is because you have this grand story, but a lot of questions that you need to answer. And if you can't do that, if you don't know where it's going to go, that's a problem. I could be dead wrong. They may have an answer. I think they already said that it's not going to end like Lost. Like, I'm pretty sure they already made a statement and said something like that. But it does feel like, for two reasons. One, from what this season gave us, and two, from what you guys are telling me without spoiling anything, that it doesn't really go anywhere. I'm concerned about that. I'm also not, though, in the same vein, because I love these characters and I love their development, and I think, obviously, like, it's kind of expected they're not exactly going to get anywhere. But, again, back to my point in the beginning where this season has me talking and it's woken me up and blah, blah, blah. Like, I have some questions and I want to talk about them, but is this like the Truman Show or something? Is there someone actually watching them and controlling the environment? That's the only logical thing I could think of as to what this is. I know we're going to get more of it, but just everything they've given us, like especially with Jim at the end of the season, where Jim gets the call from the person on the radio and they're like, I know what Tabitha's doing, she better stop. Like, okay, is this the Truman Show? That's genuinely like the only thing I could think. Something like that. I don't know how else to explain this. This is one of those shows that's going right over my head, and I love that. I love when shows could do that. I have no idea. Like, I have no idea what this could be, but it's so fascinating and makes me want to watch more. And the fact that I'm singing all these praise should be indicative to you that I loved it. And if you've watched all of this so far, spoilers and all, and haven't seen this season or this show, go watch it. Like, seriously, go watch it. I know it's on MGM Plus, which is a very random network that, what the hell is even that? But you could actually get it on AMC Plus, and I'm pretty sure there's other ways you could get it too from a streaming perspective. So there are avenues to watch it without having to figure out this MGM Plus stuff. So there's that. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. These are all my thoughts. I have a rough script outline here for this video, but I feel like I let my brain out with anything that wasn't on these pages. I would love to hear from you down in the comments. What did you think about season 1? And yeah, I'd love to start a healthy conversation down there. I can't wait to end recording this video and go watch season 2. I will definitely be back for a season 2 review out soon. My plan is to catch up, so for season 4, which was just announced to be renewed, I'll be back watching that episodically. So definitely look forward to that on the channel, whether it gets better or worse. I don't care. I'm hooked now. I'm going to continue. I'd rate this season like a 9.5 out of 10. Yeah, it had some flaws to me, which are the 0.5 that I don't give it, but the rest of it was just so compelling to me. It gave me lost energy from season 1. It gave me some peak Walking Dead energy, and I really did like it more than I thought I would. So yeah, with all that out of the way, please be sure to do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. It is free, and I really appreciate your your support, not your growth. I don't even know why I said that, but we're very close to hitting 10,000, and all you got to do is click a little white button with black text that says subscribe. Nothing else changes in your life. Nothing else really changes in mine, but I get a little pat on the back because I'm going off on a tangent. I'm excited to eventually hit 10K. That's really it. That was long, but thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to follow me on X, and until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.